Chapter 1. The Fundamental Natures of Religion and Science. The three peasant girls were out looking for firewood, which was urgently needed for cooking. In order to avoid accusations of stealing, they had walked out of town to an area of common land where they could gather driftwood. The youngest of the three was 14 years old, and she was also the weakest. She suffered from several ailments, including asthma. Unable to keep up with the older girls, she stopped near a rock formation with a small cave at its base. At this point, according to her account, she saw a soft light coming from a niche in the grotto, and a beautiful smiling child in white, who seemed to beckon to her. She was startled and instinctively reached for her rosary, but was unable to pick it up until the child produced one herself and began to make the sign of the cross. Then she watched until the girl disappeared. The year was 1858. The peasant girl was named Bernadette Soubirous, and the place was Lourdes in southern France. This was the first of 18 visions. It was only Bernadette who saw and heard them, although others were present at many of them. One of the key visions occurred on the day of the Annunciation, March 25th. Bernadette asked the vision who she was, and she received the answer, "I am the Immaculate Conception." The ghostly girl in white was apparently the Virgin Mary. The adults and town officials were at first skeptical of Bernadette's claims, and church authorities were reluctant to grant them legitimacy. But Bernadette never showed the slightest inclination to recant her claims. She seemed truly sincere. Many local women became utterly convinced that the Mother of God had chosen their obscure town of Lourdes to reveal herself to humanity. Their excitement proved contagious. By the time Bernadette died in her convent in Nevers, hundreds of thousands were going to the shrine every year, as rich and poor alike, women and then men, concluded that she had indeed been granted a genuine encounter with the Virgin. In 1908, more than 1.5 million pilgrims came to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the apparitions. A similar number came in 1950, when the Assumption of the Virgin was declared a dogma of the Catholic Church. Almost 5 million were coming every year in the early 1990s, now arriving from all over the world on packaged charter flights. While the story of Lourdes is unique in many ways, it does highlight several important components of religion. A girl's extraordinary claims led to the widespread belief that she had experienced miraculous visions. These were visions of a supernatural being, a being that is not part of the natural world. Why were so many people so eager to believe the claims? Because they wanted the claims to be true. The belief made their world seem to be a thrilling place, an important place. The claims confirmed their beliefs in the miracles of Christianity. Above all, because they had faith. The king's physician was brimming with curiosity. He wanted to understand how the human heart really works, but his contemporaries considered this an impossible dream. The heart is so complex and moves so quickly and stops so soon after an animal is surgically opened that it seemed impossible for the human eye to capture what was really happening. The physician was William Harvey, physician to King James I of England. According to the writings of Galen, the revered Greek physician, blood is continuously generated in the liver from the food we eat, from where it is pumped out by the heart to the rest of the body. The blood never returns to the heart. It is simply consumed by the body. Harvey had tremendous respect for Galen, but he knew that Galen made mistakes. The Renaissance anatomist Andreas Vesalius had found clear evidence that Galen's view of blood was flawed. Unfortunately, no one, including Vesalius, had proposed an alternative system to Galen's. Several physicians had recently discovered that blood leaves the heart from the right ventricle, travels to the lungs, where its color is transformed from a dull red to a bright red, and then travels to the left atrium of the heart. This loop from the heart to the lungs and back to the heart was called the pulmonary circulation, and this was considered the only closed loop involving the heart. Vesalius and others had discovered that inside the veins there are valves, which seemed to allow blood to flow in only one direction. Vesalius thought the valves merely strengthen the veins, and others thought that the valves are gravity-directed to stop blood from pooling up in the lower part of the body. But Harvey observed that the valves in the jugular vein, from the heart to the head, point downwards in the same direction as gravity. So the commonality among the valves is that they always point toward the heart. Harvey then performed an ingenious set of experiments with ligatures, experiments which exploited the fact that in the human arm the arteries lie deeper than the veins. So a moderately tight ligature blocks the veins, and an extremely tight ligature blocks both the arteries and the veins. If we begin with a tight ligature, we find that the hand becomes cold but remains properly colored. If we slacken the ligature somewhat, then the hand becomes flushed and the veins stand out and become distended. If we then release the ligature altogether, we release the blood in the veins and the arm returns to normal. Harvey concluded from this that blood was carried out in the arteries. With a tight ligature, the arteries are cut off as well as the veins, so the arm does not swell and there is no pulse. With a lighter ligature, the arteries are still carry blood out, but as the veins are restricted, they cannot carry blood back, so there is a swelling of the veins. So, blood is carried out by the arteries, finds its way into the veins, and is carried by the veins back to the heart. Harvey also performed a similar set of experiments using a finger to apply pressure on a vein to block it at certain points. The results of all these experiments confirm the idea that blood flows back to the heart through the veins. But Harvey's most famous and persuasive argument for the circulation of the blood involved his use of quantitative reasoning. If the human heart contained 2 ounces of blood, an observation from cadavers, and made about 65 beats per minute, then in 1 minute it pumped about 8 pounds of blood. This amount multiplied by the minutes in a day gave a fantastic quantity of blood, far too much for the body to produce rapidly from food eaten. Harvey further supported these speculations with experiments on live sheep. Severing a sheep's main artery, he collected and measured the blood expelled in a unit of time. It became obvious to him that blood must be circulating in a closed system. Harvey's theory brought together his knowledge of the pulmonary circulation, the valves and the veins, his experimental results with ligatures, and his numerical calculation of the rate of blood flow through the heart. But how exactly did the blood get from the arteries to the veins? Harvey hypothesized the existence of minute passages from the arteries to the veins, but nobody was able to observe them during his lifetime. Several decades later, microscopist Marcello Malpighi finally observed the capillaries, the missing element in Harvey's theory. Finally, Harvey's theory was conclusively proven. The story of William Harvey's discovery of the circulation of the blood is an inspiring example of science at its best. For our purposes, note what this story highlights about the nature of science. William Harvey was motivated by an intense curiosity about the natural world. He used a combination of careful, systematic observation and logical reasoning based on his observations, confirmable by others, to arrive at a theoretical conclusion that integrates a wide variety of facts. William Harvey used reason in order to understand reality. The nature of religion. The preceding examples have highlighted several aspects of religion and science. In this section and in Chapter 4, we'll consider a more philosophical analysis of the two, in order to better understand their relation to each other. This will help us, in the rest of the book, to understand the ways in which the two have been related in history. The Oxford English Dictionary defines religion as, quote, belief in or acknowledgement of some superhuman power or powers, especially a god or gods, which is typically manifested in obedience, reverence, and worship, unquote. A religion is a set of views about the supernatural origins, workings, and purposes of reality, and about what this implies for the living of our lives. More broadly, a religion is a type of philosophy. It is a systematic set of answers to the basic questions faced by all human beings throughout history. Where am I? Or what kind of world do I live in? Who am I? Or what kind of being am I? How do I know it? Or how do I obtain knowledge about the world? What should I do? Or how should I live my life? Since these questions are universal, the human need for philosophy is universal. The dominant form of philosophy in history has been religion, making religion virtually ubiquitous. The development of non-religious philosophic ideas has been relatively rare in history, with ancient Greece as a significant exception. According to religion, the world around us, the world that we see, hear, touch, smell, and taste, is not the only world. It is not even the most important world. There are important, powerful things beyond nature that are, quote, supernatural, unquote. Entities like gods, angels, and demons, and places like heaven and hell. According to Western religions, such as Christianity and Islam, after we die, we live in an afterlife for the rest of time. Our limited time on earth is nothing compared to the eternity in the other world. So should we care very much about this world? Religion's answer is clear: no. Belief in another, higher world and an eternal afterlife logically leads to denying the central importance of the world that we see, hear, touch, smell, and taste. The most important thing is discovering how to best prepare for the next world. We need to get in touch with the powers of the next world to find out what we should be doing. According to religion, the most important things are not available to the senses or direct reasoning from them. This premise gives rise to a key religious concept: faith. Faith is belief in the absence of evidence or in contradiction to evidence. According to the biblical character Paul, faith is, quote, the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1. Faith is a key religious virtue. It is explicitly stressed in Western religions, such as Christianity, but it plays a crucial role in all religions. According to philosopher Leonard Peikoff, quote, faith names the method of religion, the essence of its epistemology, unquote. Epistemology is the philosophy of knowledge, the study of how we know what we know. A closely related branch of philosophy is metaphysics, or ontology, which is the study of the basic nature of existence or reality. Peikoff argues that the metaphysics of religion is belief in, quote, some higher unseen reality, unquote, or power. Quote, according to religion, this supernatural power is the essence of the universe and the source of all value. It constitutes the realm of true reality and of absolute perfection. By contrast, the world around us is viewed as only semi-real and as inherently imperfect, even corrupt, in any event metaphysically unimportant. According to most religions, this life is a mere episode in the soul's journey to its ultimate fulfillment, which involves leaving behind earthly things in order to unite with deity. As a pamphlet issued by a Catholic study group expresses this point, man, quote, cannot achieve perfection or true happiness in this life here on earth. He can only achieve this in the eternity of the next life after death. Therefore, what a person has or lacks in terms of worldly possessions, privileges, or advantages is not important. Unquote. A concept closely related to religion is mysticism. Mysticism is the philosophic view that we can obtain knowledge from means other than reason and sense perception. Mystics have proposed such means as faith, feelings, intuition, revelation, or just knowing. Mysticism is a key component of religion. The nature of science. Science is the systematic study of natural phenomena in order to grasp the nature of entities and their actions. It involves the systematic use of observation and logical reasoning to develop theories that explain the world in which we live. As one scientist summarizes, quote, "The scientific method involves the observation of phenomena or events in the real world, the statement of a problem, some reflection and deduction on the observed facts and their possible causes and effects, the formation of hypothesis, the testing of the hypothesis, experimentation or prediction, and, when the tests repeatedly confirm the hypothesis, the erection of a theory." Unquote. The resulting knowledge is a powerful tool for improving human life, although the full extent of science's usefulness was not evident until the Industrial Revolution. Before the 18th century, it was commonly thought that the purpose of science was knowledge for its own sake. The scientific revolution of the 17th century led to the systematic use of experimentation and mathematics, which have become central to what we call science today. In the example of William Harvey, we saw him doing a wide range of observations and experiments. Harvey even used mathematics in the form of a crude numerical measurement. But the real power of mathematics was in the fields of astronomy and physics, where the discoveries of Galileo, Kepler, and others led to the brilliant synthesis of Newton's theories and countless other discoveries. Given the critical importance of the scientific revolution, did science really exist before it? Yes, it did. As we shall see in the next chapter, the ancient Greeks achieved the basic scientific mindset and made a number of important scientific discoveries.